Hi everyone, welcome back to Earl Grey Books. I'm Ellie. It's the most wonderful time of year. It's Eurovisionathon TBR time. So I'm sure many of you know that this is my favourite readathon in existence ever. I really enjoy this every single year. So today we're here with my TBR. We have a stack of books here, and I've got a whole bunch more to tell you about, so we're going to jump into it. I'm going to give you a little bit of info about the readathon first, and then we'll jump into the books. I did want to mention last year I did a Aussie themed shirt, and then a few weeks ago I was in an op shop when I found this one, and I was like, there it is, that's my Eurovisionathon shirt. Done. So very excited to have found that. And let's talk about the readathon. So this is the third year of Eurovisionathon. It was created and is still run by my lovely friend Helen from Helen's Bookhaven. This year is running from the 15th of April to the 13th of May, so just under a month. And the whole purpose is to try and read as many books set in or by authors who live in the countries that are participating in Eurovision this year. There's a whole list. I will link Helen's announcement video down below, as well as the Twitter where you can see the photo list of all the countries that are participating in 2023 if you're interested in joining in. We're going to get into my TBR now. So in the past, what I've done with this is just gone through the countries alphabetically. This year we're doing it a little bit differently, and I have broken my TBR into the physical books that I own, books that I will be getting or that I might read off Scribd, things that I will be getting off KU or through my library digitally, things that I will be picking up from a physical library, and then a couple of books where I don't know where I'm going to get them from, or countries that I just don't have a book from this year. So we're going to jump in with the ones that I do physically own. I'm going to talk more, I think, about my goals once the readathon starts, and I know kind of what I've got going on. I will be doing 2 vlogs this year to split the readathon in half, and we'll talk more about goals and my specific plan of attack then. But the very basics are that I plan to start with the physical ones, so that I am taking a couple of books off my TBR, and then there are a couple others that I will flag here and there that I will also be trying to get to, and anything else that I manage to get to is awesome. So first up, first country for this year from my physically owned TBR is Australia. As with every year, obviously it's quite easy to find books that are set in Australia or are by Australian authors, as I live in Australia. But this year I have selected None Shall Sleep by Ellie Marnie, which is a reread for me. This is actually set in the US, but Ellie Marnie is a Australian author. The sequel comes out in June, so this will quite possibly be one that I try to read towards the end of the readathon. But there's also a chance with any of these that I may just switch them out for other things. But right now, this is the one. Next is Croatia, which I am going with The Bone Woman by Clea Koff. I have kind of a funny story about this one, where I had picked this to go on my TBR and then was like, I'm never gonna find this. And then a couple of weeks later I found it in a secondhand store. Could not believe it. But I have it now. This is one that I'm going to be starting just before the readathon, because it's only sort of the last, I don't know, section, last half, the second half, that is about Croatia. The first is about Rwanda and I think it's Bosnia. So I'm going to start it because this is a book about a forensic anthropologist's search for truth in the mass graves of Rwanda, Bosnia, Croatia, and Kosovo. So it's going to be a tough read, but I'm going to start it early and then read the actual part about Croatia during the readathon and finish it off. Next country is France, and I'm going with The Betrayal by Kate Fernval, who is also an Aussie author. This is set in Paris just before World War II, or in the very early days, and this follows two sisters, one of whom is like a socialite, I think, and the other is a pilot. That's all I know about it. We'll give it a shot. Greece. We have Three Summers by Margarita Liberaki. I meant to read this one last year, but then I read something else for Italy that was quite similar, set in the same sort of time period and was kind of a literary fiction as well. So I ended up reading something else. But this year we're going to go with it, and it is set in, Athens just before the Second World War, and it is relatively short, so hoping that I enjoy it. Iceland. Super excited for this one. I'm finally going to reread, I cannot say this title. It's one of my favorite books, and every time I come to it, I'm like, nope, that's not how you say that. Burial Rites? I still don't know. This is by Hannah Kent. This is, like I said, one of my favorite books of all time. I haven't read it since about 2014, so I'm nervous but excited. This is set in Iceland in 1829. Super excited to dip back into this. Italy, here we go. All Our Yesterdays by Natalia Ginsberg. I actually had a couple that came up for Italy that I had either bought or could get, and I was like, no. I specifically bought this one a few months ago for Eurovisionathon, so I should read this. This, I believe, is also a literary fiction, early 30s or 40s, I think. Anyway, we'll see how we go with it. This one is kind of chunky, but we'll see. Lithuania. Another reread for me is Between Shades of Grey by Ruta Sepetys. Last year I read a book that reportedly sort of was inspiration a little bit for this. And again, this is one of my favorite books. I've read this twice and it has absolutely destroyed me both times, but it's been a couple of years and I feel a bit like, no, couldn't have been that bad. So when I am inevitably just a complete disaster and I just spend the whole time crying, you're more than welcome to remind me of the fact that I thought this would be fine. Next we have the Netherlands, which I am going with The Historian by Elizabeth Kostova. Again, started this one last year for Bulgaria. I think Bulgaria isn't in it this year, and I was like, where else is this set? Because it does kind of take place over a number of countries. From memory, this does take a good portion of it in the Netherlands. I just had a complete blank of the word Amsterdam. I think from memory it starts in Amsterdam. We'll see, and if it doesn't, maybe there is another country I can switch it out for. But from memory, I don't know. That's what it said online as well, so we'll see. Okay, Poland. I'm going to be reading Trader by Amanda Macrina, which I had ordered for last year and then didn't arrive until after the readathon from memory. This is set in Poland in 1944. This is the time of year I just read all the World War II books. And so the main character is half Polish, half Ukrainian, and gets stuck in some way between the two forces. Anyway, yeah, have picked this for Poland, may switch it out. I believe it says that it at least starts in Poland, but if I may end up switching it out for Ukraine, we'll see. Okay, Romania, which is another one that I just had like a significant number of books for. It was so weird. But last year I started The Story That Cannot Be Told by J. Casper Kramer, and I didn't get to finish it, and I was enjoying it, so I don't remember anything, so I'm going to restart it and hopefully manage to finish this one off this year. I think this is going to be one that I kind of bump up the list to be one of the first couple. It's a middle grade. Fletcher's playing on the floor with his toy. I'm sorry if you can hear him. And yeah, I just think that'll be fun. And then the last one that I own physically at the moment is The Fountains of Silence by Rita Sepetys. Also started this one last year. Wasn't really enjoying it, and then I ended up putting it down. But it is one of my friend picks for this year. Sierra picked this for me, and her video goes up in May, so need to read it. Why not chuck it on here? Okay, so those are the physical ones, and now we're going to move my laptop closer so I can read to you, first of all, the ones that I have off Scribd. These ones are admittedly lower down the list because I don't super love reading off Scribd. Anyway, that's a discussion for another time. First up, I have Albania. Apologies for any pronunciations of any of the following names. I tried to look them up. Some of them, there just isn't anything. So, Albania. Negative Space by Luljeta Lishanku. This is poetry. That's all I have to say about that one. Azerbaijan, don't know if I said that right either, which is Nowhere, A Story of Exile by Anna Astvatsurin Tukot. It's a memoir. That's all I have about that one. Estonia, The Savior of Lasnamäe by Maurice Sat, which again I picked last year, didn't get around to it. We'll see how we go. Georgia, The Pearfield by Nana Eki Tim-ish Vili, perhaps. Not sure about that one. No idea what this is about either. And then Ukraine. This is, if I read any, it's going to be this one. And that is Mother Country by Irina Wren, which I believe is a literary fiction. From memory is rather short. And that's what we love to see. Next, we're going to go into the ones that I'm reading off KU or digitally from my library, and one that I just bought as a Kindle book last year. So, Armenia, I'm reading Armenian Myth, Legends and Folktales. This is one put together by a publisher, so there's no author. Belgium, which is Nowhere Boy by Catherine Marsh, which I have put on my TBR for the last 2 years and haven't read. So this year I feel like if I'm going to wear this in my TBR, I need to read a book from Belgium. So definitely going to be one that I try and get to. Cyprus, which is one that I bought last year, Women and Change in Cyprus, Feminism and Gender in Conflict by Maria Haji Pavlu. I don't know if that's that's a U. That's a guess. Czech Republic and the UK I'm going to mention together because I may read one of these and then read something else for the other country. But right now I have Melmoth for Czech and The Essex Serpent for the UK, both by Sarah Perry. So yeah, I may read one of these, and if I don't like her writing, I will read something else for the other country. I have a lot, obviously, of books for the UK. It's one of the easiest countries to mark off. I don't know, I really wanted to read this one lately, so I thought I'd put it on here and we'll see if we get to it. Denmark! We are going with the Copenhagen trilogy by Tove Ditlevsen. I've seen this one around for years, and I've just been like, oh, I'm probably never going to pick that up, but we're doing it this year. Okay, next is Finland, and we're going with The Woman Who Borrowed Memories, which is by Tove Jansson, who is the author of the Moomins series. This is a like short story collection of hers. I never read Moomins as a kid. I had no idea they existed until about 3 or 4 years ago. But this is short stories and it sounds interesting. Ireland, we are going with Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man by James Joyce. We're picking this one because over the last few weeks and going into up to May and June, I'm doing a whole course, or a whole class rather, about Irish literature, and so I thought I would pick one that I had to read for class so that it's like I study and I get a book marked off. This is the one that I will be reading around that time, so here we are. Next is Portugal. I'm reading That Hair by Jamila Pereira de Almeida. I don't remember what this one is about at all, but I remember it has a kind of cool cover. And yes, the UK I have already mentioned. So now we move on to the ones that I'm going to be getting from a physical library. There's just 4 of these, so it's nice and small area. First is Israel. For this, I will be reading We Were the Future by Yael Neiman, which is also a memoir. I don't know what the specifics of it are, but there we are. Latvia, I have Baltic Facades by Aldis Pers. This could also mark off Lithuania or Estonia. So if I do read this one and it comes to it, I can maybe use it for another country as well. Moldova, I'm reading The Sisters of Winter Wood by Rena Rosner. And for Norway, I have The Witches of Vardø, which is by Anja Bergman. This one has an absolutely beautiful cover, and this one is one of the very few that I am highly considering buying instead of just getting from the library, but we'll see. Now we go on to the countries that I'm not sure how I'm going to get these books, or that I just don't have a book for. So first we have Austria. The one I picked is called Still Alive by Ruth Kluger, which is, I believe, a memoir about escaping from Austria in the 40s. I feel like I'm reading a lot of that. I always read a lot of that for Eurovisionathon. So this is, I also have no idea how I would get it, so it's quite low down the list. Then I have, for Sweden, I have Eventide by Therese Bowman. Can't remember what this one is about either. I think it had a cool cover. Haven't been able to find it anywhere. If I do, great. Love that for me. Next, Switzerland, which I have A Castle in the Clouds by Kirsten Gier. Again, I think I have an ebook copy of this, but I couldn't find it on my Kindle. So I don't know where that is, but if I can find it, I will try and read it. And then that was our last book. The 4 countries that I currently don't have anything